We are charting the higher octave with goth rock band from Athens, Georgia. So happy to have Dusty here, Dusty Gannon. Vision Video. I love that name. Automatically, you got me.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah, the name actually came from a video store that was here in Athens, Georgia, that I grew up with, and it was kind of much loved. It was the sort of the punk rock version of like Blockbuster or whatever. It was sort of locally owned. Pretty much all the college students that go to UGA, like they ran it. It was always like younger people, and I loved it because when I first moved into Athens, because I kind of grew up in the sticks, like in the middle of nowhere, and when I first moved here, one of the best ways to find out about shows and bands and stuff was to go to Vision Video, because they would always have the flyers on the window of the shop, and you'd be like, oh cool, so and so is playing on Friday or whatever. And it was yeah, it was exciting to be able to go rent like some cult horror movies, but also see what's going on around town simultaneously. And that, so it went out of business like right, like I think it was like a year before we started the band. And yeah, like our original drummer Jason Fusco was like, we should call it Vision Video, and I was like, that's perfect, because it's
No, it's a
kind
great.
of got this like retro vibe to it, but it's also like something that we really loved. Yeah, so I miss it very much, but I like to think we're keeping it alive to some effect.
Yeah, no, you are. Yeah. So I know you guys you've been around now since 2018, or is it
Mhm.
2017 around there?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think we started to like kind of get stuff out. Like our first show was in October of 2017, and that was when we were just a three piece, and like yeah, like it was very fledgling. It was just like kind of a local project. We didn't have any ambitions of doing, I wanted to push the envelope with it, but we didn't. I had no concept of what it would turn into at that point. But yeah, I'd say like we kind of really got started in 2018.
So how did you all started out in music? Because I know you were a DJ a long time ago, and
Yeah. I mean, I started with music when I was a teenager, I guess. I had a guitar and like a synthesizer. And as I mentioned, I grew up in very, very rural Georgia, like middle of nowhere, like 30 minutes from anything. And that was back when we didn't even have like broadband internet. It was very isolating, and it was very like, hard for me to feel connected to the things that I loved. And I got into goth and post punk music when I was pretty young. I was about like 13 or 14 when I found it, because my sister was into it, and she's like 6 years
oh,
older than me. So I always like kind of looked to her and her friends as like, oh wow, they're like these ethereal creatures, and they like, I was the annoying little brother. So, it was always like this unobtainably cool thing to me. But anyway, so I grew up like, you know, kind of feeling really isolated and disconnected from that world. So I tried to like emulate it, and I just like would watch like tons of music videos on like VH1 Classic. I remember that channel would
oh
play
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that, and that was where I found
Minute,
stuff
minute.
like the band The Specimen,
Mm.
and Ollie Wisdom and John Klein, all those guys, and Johnny Slett. Like those were like really important moments. And I would go into my bedroom and I would like try to make the same sounds of the music videos that I was
Oh,
watching, and play the records. And like one of the good things was here in Athens, I would come into town and I would go to these record stores that some of them we still have, like Wuxtree and Low Yo-Yo Stuff Records are still here. And I would go up to the clerk and be like, hey, I really like this record. Can I, like, what do you recommend next? And they'd be like, oh, you like Bauhaus, so check out like Tones on Tail
mm.
or whatever. And so there was always like new stuff coming through, like kind of human curation, which was, that was cool to me. That was like, I don't know. Anyway, that was like, I think my formative experience with music was just trying to find more stuff that felt really precious to me, especially at the time. And Yeah, as I got older, like, I joined the military, and I was kind of away from a lot of that stuff for a long time, unfortunately. But ultimately, like even when I was in the military, I still played guitar just on my own time. And I tried to, I just tried to like keep up with like bands and stuff, but I was just extremely busy with all of that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
world.
Traveling.
Uh, yeah, and then when I got out of the army in 2016, I moved back here to Athens because I wanted to go. I originally wanted to go to graduate school, and I ended up becoming a firefighter instead. Around that time in 2016, I was bartending at this really fantastic music venue here called the Georgia Theater. It's like one of our larger venues. And my friend who I went to high school with, Steven, he was like, he's also into kind of goth and post punk. He's more into the like industrial side and like electronic side. But he was like, hey, we should. He was the bar manager, and he was like, hey, we should start a goth night. And I was like, oh, like how would that work? And he's like, well, I'll teach you how to DJ. So I learned a little bit from him, and then yeah, like about a year and a half later, we started the band. And that kind of just started with me posting videos on Facebook back then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Jason Fusco, who was our first drummer, he's in a really fantastic punk band called She He He, and I love them. They're very much like the Ramones style punk rock. And I go see them whenever I can, whenever they play. And I saw him at a show, and he was like, hey, I saw some of those videos you're posting where you're playing guitar. And he's like, I really like the sounds. He said it really reminded him of like The Cure. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. And he was like, well, come over sometime and I'll play some drums to it. And that's kind of how it started. Dan Geller joined on, and then later on Emily Freedock. And it was like, and it's interesting now because I'm the only original member left of the band,
Oh
but
yeah. Oh,
but yeah, and these things happen, like things evolve and change. But yeah, that's kind of how we got started, and it just really went from there. Like it is built over time, and it was not something that I ever imagined to be a thing, but
yeah.
it's very satisfying to know that it resonated.
Yeah, it's really interesting how you find your signature sound somehow, right? Because when I heard "In My Side," I'm like,
Mm,
wow, you have that vibe that I've been looking for, that I've always
right.
been. So like catchy tune.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. No, and I think a lot of that comes from sort of this. I mean, a lot of my influences, I think, inevitably came through with this band, and they're not like, there's the very obvious stuff like The Cure and Bauhaus and the Chameleons and Sisters of Mercy and all that, like kind of classic goth rock stuff. But then I mean, I really love like Midwestern punk, like the Replacements
Mm-hmm.
and Husker Du and stuff like that. Real, I feel like that music. The reason why I love that music is because it's so hooky and it's just so like
Hmm.
threadbare and like emotionally honest and real. Especially the Replacements. Like every time I listen to like the record "Pleased to Meet Me," I'm like, oh man, like I'm just ripping these guys off more than anything. But
Oh, I
uh,
mean, you have your own sound too. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and I think it takes time to find that sound. I was when we first started this band, I was really dramatically less experienced as a musician. Like I didn't really understand composition and like I mean I feel like I was a very fledgling guitar player. I was just kind of like totally playing by ear, and I still kind of do that, but I'm at least capable of like understanding scales and chord progressions and stuff like that now. And there's a little bit more like technical knowledge behind it. Um, but I think ultimately when you're writing music, eventually something comes through that feels like you start to go, oh, this is me. Like this is our sound. This is what this sounds like, and it starts to kind of coalesce
yeah,
around
yeah.
a sense of identity or whatever through that sound, and that's cool. That's a cool day when you're like, oh, we have a sound. It's not just like,
Yeah, yeah, you have to find it somehow, right? Through
yeah.
experience and
Mhm.
also your music, the lyrics of some of these songs are based on experience, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd say all of it is in essence. I mean, there's very few things that I write that are more like fantasy or like storytelling narratives, but most of it is directly based on things that I dealt with or experienced in either the military or especially the fire department, being a paramedic firefighter, just being around a lot of really,
No,
really intensely terrible things, and seeing some things that I'd rather not remember. But that, I mean, essentially, Vision Video became my portal of catharsis. It became my thing to
yeah.
help me process a lot of those memories and difficult emotions.
I mean, are you still doing the same job? With the firefighter? You still doing that?
No, I
Oh,
left to do music full time about 3 years ago now, and I miss it a lot. I there's aspects that I really dramatically miss. Like I miss helping people in a very literal way.
yeah. I mean, that's such an honor to do that. You served you served in the military,
Hmm.
then you served mankind right after that.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It was an honor. I have mixed feelings about the military because I think our military is used, especially in modern day, in the past, ever since World War II. There's essentially been very few like good things that have happened because of our military's use, and that's stuff that I learned like from experience, but also in retrospect and just like getting an education. Um, but like yeah, being a firefighter and a paramedic was like
wow.
the most satisfying thing I have ever done because it's
Wow.
like you're around chaos and atrocity and horrible things all the time, but like every now and then you do save somebody's life or you
Yeah.
like do something really important on a really bad day, and it's yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of sacrifice involved and it takes a lot of mental fortitude to like stay
Mm-hmm.
sane just stay like
I
reasonably
know.
okay.
That's
And
amazing. Are you were I know you fought in Afghanistan, right? And
yeah, I was in Kandahar city in Afghanistan.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then you switch off to helping people that are like life and death situations. So you've seen the gore
yeah,
and everything else.
yeah. I mean, I went
Admirable.
that
So
way.
admirable.
Oh, thank you. No, I felt like I needed to, when I left the army, I was totally disenfranchised by it. I was like, I do not want to participate in anything like this ever again. Because like, I mean, I have mixed feelings about Afghanistan. Like there were some good things that we did for people there. And, like I look at the failure of that war and how the Taliban is back and they've taken control again, and like women and femme presenting people have no rights there like at all. Like it is so draconian and it's unreal. Like people can't even imagine how bad it is
Mhm.
in some places there. But at the end of the day, like that war was so mismanaged and run by politicians and bureaucracy, and it was really just to keep money going, because a lot of warfare that is conducted on behalf of the United States is about like the military industrial complex and sort of paying money into that system because it's a very lucrative business. War has become. So when I left all of that, I wanted to do what I felt was the exact opposite of that, which to me was like being a paramedic and a firefighter. Because the thing that I realized when I applied for that job was like, oh, there's no moral gray area to this. Like you just show up to help people. And it's not even like being a cop where there's like, systems
Mhm.
of power and abuse. Like you literally just show up and you help people. It doesn't matter if somebody was shot robbing someone. You go and you help. You plug the gunshot wound. You take them to the hospital. You treat them just like anybody else. And you know, that was satisfying, and that felt like a way for me to pay recompense to the universe after participating in something that I did not agree with and I didn't think was morally right or okay. So yeah,
Oh, that's
ultimately,
amazing.
ultimately, it was a great experience. Though. I mean, but it definitely has its costs.
Yeah.
The sheer amount of like terrible things that you see as a paramedic, especially as a paramedic, it is unreal.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and like working in the Atlanta metro area, that's just like a really chaotic, crazy place. And yeah, so in the long run, like this band became my way to process all that stuff because it got to a point where I was diagnosed with PTSD, and that was like weird because I felt fine for the longest time, and then one day I was like very aware of the fact that I was not okay. And so but
So
I, I got,
was that after the military?
yeah,
Or
that was while I was working as a firefighter. I
oh,
was, and I would say the preponderance of my trauma or whatever, that gave me that broken brain of PTSD is from the fire department, and just
oh,
seeing so many horrible things. But yeah,
wow.
it became clear to me very quickly that like this was going to be the thing that kind of helped me stay grounded and help me feel like I'm,
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
it transformed you in some ways,
oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and then
100%.
look at where you are now. Now you're entertaining us.
Yeah, and I think that entertainment, like there we have songs that are very like just fun and for the sake of like fun, like Let Go of Time is a song that I wrote about the vampire movie Only Lovers Left Alive. Like it's kind of about love, and it's fun. It's like it's not meant to be like this super deep song. But I think that there can also be like really legitimate value from the things that do entertain us, where we can learn lessons and like commiserate and feel connected to what is being said, and it's not just like totally for the fun of it. But yeah, I mean, you have to find a balance with it, and that happens with everything in life.
Yeah. And it takes a very strong soul to actually do what you just did and where you are now, and it's paying off, because you guys are
Thanks.
just blowing up the US with your music that I can see and I can hear. Uh,
Thanks.
I know your latest album. It's called Modern Horror. I think
Yeah.
that's out now, and it's produced right by Grammy Award winning producer.
Mhm.
Is that Ben Allen?
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, he's incredible. Ben is such an interesting producer because he's done everything. Like he's done Christina Aguilera to Erasure to like, I mean, just all sorts of bands. But when we first met up with him, because he's kind of from Athens, like he kind of lived here for a
Oh,
long time, and we kind of knew mutual people, and so that's how that kind of all connected. We like went into his studio in Atlanta, and we just sat down and talked with him, and like hit it off, and we honestly talked about Athens for like 2 hours. Like we're just talking about all the people we know, and the things that we love about the town. And then when we got to start talking about music, it became very clear to me that he loves like post punk. We talked about like Gang of Four, we talked about Erasure, we talked about all these different bands, The Cure, The Smiths, The Chameleons, Joy Division, etc. And he was very much so a fan of that realm of music. And yeah, so it was like this is a good fit. But what I also appreciated about him is like kind of looking through his discography and all the things that he had produced, I understood that it wasn't going to be like just a rehashing of that sound, and he wasn't just going to make the same thing over again, which excited me because I don't know, I just wanted to try to do something very different with that record, and I think he nailed it. I think he did a really good job at like finding kind of what we were going for.
yeah, no,
um
it's perfect. It's a great record, and you won the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards Editor's Eyeball Award. Is that what it's called?
yeah, that
Tell
was
us about
cool.
that.
Yeah, so they did a write up for us, like out of the blue back in, I guess it was 2023, towards the end of the year. Phil Nobile Jr., who's now a friend of mine, he's the chief editor of the magazine, and he just emailed me, and it was just like so random because I grew up reading Fangoria. It's
Yeah,
just a
me too.
great horror movie
Amazing.
magazine, lo and behold, in my inbox there's this like random email, and it's like, hey, I'm Phil from Fangoria, I don't know if you know what Fangoria is. And I was like, oh, I know. And he's like, hey, I was wondering if I could call you and talk about, like, I want to do like an article about you guys. And I was like, this is wild. So I called him, and we talked, and he sort of interviewed me, and we just talked for like hours, and it was so cool because
Wow.
he's such a cool guy. Like he's just so personable, and he's not one of these people that's like, like he's in a really cool position, but he doesn't hold that over anybody. He's very grounded, down to earth, and I appreciate that. So yeah, it was cool to like work with him on this article. But then last year And that came out in, I guess, 2023. But anyway, last year he approached me and was like, "Hey, uh, you know, I want to do this. I'm going to give you. We're giving you this award." And I was like, "That's so crazy!" Like, and it just kind of caught me out of left field because, like, everything that I do always has like some element of like horror twinge to it. Like, I'm very horror obsessed. My
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
house is like a horror movie
Yeah, yeah.
monument.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and it was crazy because he, like, he told me what the award is for, and it's sort of about, um doing something new in the world of horror that progresses and pushes the envelope and like tries to say something that matters. And I thought that was really cool. And that was, I mean, that's honestly one of the biggest honors that I've ever had in my life, was like getting that award, because yeah, I mean, I also feel a little guilty because there are so many people in that horror world that make like film and or shorts or television or whatever, or content on social media that are probably way more deserving. But it was amazing to be recognized for that.
Like, well, I think part of it too is the experience that you went through in the war. That's pretty horrific.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
this
mean,
and then taking this other position where you're like helping people in a good way, but then
right.
you experience all the horror behind that. I,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely coded into the music. And I think Phil understands that very much so.
And
He's
so it's
very,
well deserved for you. Yeah, for
well,
sure.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know that the previous two albums you had, Inked in Red and Haunted Hours, was mixed and recorded by Tom Ashton. That right?
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I did talk to him before, March Violet. So
Oh, cool.
that's amazing. Yeah, he's from Georgia too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tom
yeah.
just lives about 25 minutes down the street.
I
Yeah.
know.
He's
Amazing. I've been
kind of,
I've been talking to a lot of people, a lot of musicians from Georgia. Must
oh,
be.
yeah. Yeah. Tom was great. I met Tom actually DJing at a goth night here in Athens. And there's a really funny story behind that. So I was playing like the March Violet Snake Dance, which is like such a great iconic goth rock song. And I was a little drunk at the end of a goth night. And a friend of mine who's kind of a person that used to be in the scene a lot here, she came up to me and was like, "Hey, you know that Tom Ashton is here?" And I was like, "Who?" And she's like, "You idiot, the guitarist of the band of that you're playing right now, the March Violets." And I was like, "Oh, he's not." And she's like, "No, he lives here." And I was like, "What?" And it was just the weirdest moment. And he came over and he's got this really funny, uh, just very dry wit but great sense of humor. And he comes up to me, and she's like, "Oh, come here, I want to introduce you." And he comes up and he goes, "Oh, I like the song you're playing," and his beautiful British accent. And I was just like so embarrassed, and I was like, "This is wild." So we got to talking, and he asked me, he's like, "Oh, do you play music? Do you do anything?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've actually just started this band called Vision Video." And he's like, "Oh, that's super cool. Like, what are your plans with that?" And I was like, "Well, we have, we're kind of at the point where we have about an album's worth to record, and I guess we're going to start figuring that out soon." And he's like, "Well, I run a studio out of my home. It's just this great studio situation. So if you ever want to do that," he's like, "I think that would work really well." So we sent him demos, and he was like, "Yeah, this is great." So we recorded the first two records with him. And I mean, Tom
Wow.
is like, he's just one of my best friends now. It's crazy how life.
No, no, he's such a nice guy. In fact, I was surprised that he even lived in Georgia when we did the interview with the March Violets. The other members
Yeah.
were like in England. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Because so his wife is from here.
oh,
They met in 1991 when he was on tour playing guitar for Clan of Zymox, which is so
yeah.
crazy. And he just happened to see her walk. He was sitting at a bar having a pint, and he saw her walking down the street, and he's like, "I'm going to go where that beautiful woman is going." And then, and as it turned out, when he introduced himself to her, she knew who he was because she DJ'd for the college radio WOG here in Athens, and she was going to the show. So it just all worked
Oh
out.
wow, like meant to be.
Yeah.
That's
And they got married like I think like a year and a half later. And they lived in like England for a long time, but then they moved back here and that they had their two kids. They had their two kids in England, but they moved back and that's where they live now. And yeah, I actually need to call him. So
Oh, well, tell him I said hi.
yeah,
And
I
we did that
will.
interview.
I will definitely.
Well, this is a great album, and it's called Modern Horror, and is out now.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to make your way over to Hawaii when very
Yeah.
soon. Cross over to the ocean, and
Absolutely. I mean, that's the plan. Like we were actually we were discussing that, as a band the other day. Because the goal is to next year to go to some places that we haven't been.
Mhm.
And the idea for that is to go to Hawaii, to maybe Japan, because I love Japan. I've been there a few
Mhm.
times and it's just
Mhm.
such a
Me
wonderful
too.
place. But also Australia, New Zealand.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those that's the and hopefully Mexico next year as well. We're just trying to get out to places that we haven't been before because we have fans in these places,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I
Sure.
love traveling. I any excuse to go anywhere
I
that's not
know,
the
yeah.
US,
I mean,
especially nowadays. I'm like ready to go. So
yeah, I know, yeah, yeah. So you also DJ. Just want to mention that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so hopefully
So,
I'll be able to come and DJ for you guys like
yeah,
before you even get over there. That would be rad.
that's gonna be so awesome. So I know you DJ, but so tell me about so it's Goth Daddy.
Got that. Yeah, the
Oh, Goth
character.
Dad. Okay, yes. So that's your DJ name.
Yeah, I just
Okay,
sort
okay.
of nicked it from the character that I
Okay.
do. I haven't really done much with that in a long time at this point, but it's like this it's a very like satirical sort of parody character called Goth Dad, and he's like a Midwestern, oh don't you know, kind of very like 50s TV dad, but he's like very much so knowledgeable on the goth subculture. And that was another thing that I never thought, like it was literally a joke, but it sort of took off, and it was like, oh, there's like a cool thing that I can do with this where I can kind of make jokes and be ridiculous, which is very much so part of my personality, but like also bring this to a new generation of people,
Hmm.
but also have
That's
like a
great.
sense of nostalgia for us older folks within the scene, yeah, I just wanted to kind of build something that was a little like kind of poked fun at the whole thing, because we can be very self-serious, and it's important to have fun and like take it easy a little bit. But yeah, that's where the DJ name came from, was just that
Okay.
character.
Well, you're so well versed in all these. You're a musician. You DJ. I mean, you have so many stories to tell, and that's so amazing. Such an
Thanks.
amazing name, and we're looking forward to having you in Hawaii pretty soon, one of these days.
Yeah, oh, we'll definitely make it
Um,
happen. Yeah,
you have
for sure.
you got so much energy on stage. I watch a lot of your live videos, and
Oh,
I think
cool.
people would love that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for me it's like all about just putting on the kind of show that I would want to see. I think there's value to stillness and sort of poignancy and darkness and brooding, but I my brand of goth and post punk that I really feel connected to is like I said earlier, like Specimen, where they were just running around. It was kind of more punk rock, like Alien Sex Fiend, like really dynamic, engaging, very visceral and weird, and just kind of but like intense energy in the live show. And yeah, so I always try to like put it all out on the table.
Yeah,
Um,
I did an interview with Ollie Wisdom years ago.
oh, that's so
But
cool.
before
Yeah,
when he was still alive, and he was
yeah,
doing Goa music, at one point.
yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
was like DJing in I think Thailand or something like that. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's like a guy that I really wish I could have met. It's like too bad that he left us so early, but
I know.
you
Yeah,
know,
so amazing. Yeah, the Bat Cave, right? It's so amazing.
yeah. Yeah, that's such a phenomenal time in history to me, just like because it was such a like DIY experience. There was no money behind it. There was no like corporate
Right, right.
sensibility. You know, it was a very, it's in a way, it was more punk rock than punk rock, because punk rock got so co-opted by like record companies and stuff. And I think that what they did with that club and that scene must have just been so phenomenal and fascinating. If I
Yeah.
could, that's like a time machine thing. You know, if I had a time machine, I had limited use of it, I would absolutely go to like London and Soho in the early 80s and
I
just
know.
like,
Yeah, yeah. Me too. Wish I went back in the day. But you know, he
yeah,
did talk about that because I had so much questions to ask him about the Batcave, all
right.
that kind of stuff. So yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what is up for in the future, in the near future, besides touring?
Yeah. So I'm working on some different stuff. You know, there's always music kind of on the horizon. I'm working on, we're not really working on like a record per se, like not a body of work that would consist of an album, or maybe like an EP or something. But I've got some new songs that are almost done that I'm really, really excited about. They're very, very much so, more so like kind of in the direction of like the songs Dead Gods and Sign of the Times on our last record, our latest record. Like it's more guitar driven, it's a little bit more rock and roll. Again, aiming at that kind of era of music from Batcave.
Hmm.
Very, very screechy, uh, just heavier guitars, a little bit more dissonant, a little less polish. Um, but you know, like piss and vinegar kind of music. So that's kind of that, you know, and the plan with these new songs going into this year is like finish a song, record it, get it out. Like just be releasing singles just regularly instead of worrying
Oh
about
yeah.
like, oh, let's make a body of work that's a record. And then eventually when it feels like we have enough, you
And
know,
then make
maybe
it another,
record,
yeah.
yeah, like a few more and then build it all together and be like, all right, here's a vinyl record or CD that you can buy or whatever. Um, but yeah, like I, I'm also doing some different stuff for myself. Like I'm writing a horror novel this year, which is
Oh wow.
yeah, I already started it. I started
Wow.
it this week. I spent a month researching it, and
Uh-huh.
it's kind of it's basically in the modern future. The short and sweet version of it is like it's about this guy who is in the US Army, and he's sent via the UN and NATO to Bosnia because the conflict in the Balkans is like maybe trying to reignite. So they send all these peacekeeping troops. And essentially, this shape shifting metaphysical creature follows him back from that conflict and decides to destroy his life. And he has to figure out how to destroy this creature lest he himself be destroyed. So, very obviously taken from some of my
Oh,
personal
wow. Yeah, from
experiences.
experience. Yeah, I see.
But it's going to be really cool because it's like it's going to be actual horror. Like it's not like was it all in his head? It's like no, there is this actual creature following this guy around. So I'm working on that, and I'm 4 pages in. I spent one day.
Uh-huh.
There's a local bar here that's like literally across the street from me. It's my favorite bar. It's called Hidden Gem, and it's kind of like it's a very like dark, quiet bar. It's not very like boisterous, and it kind of caters to like the townies and the older people in the
Mhm.
town. And I just plopped down and opened my laptop and started clacking away. So
Oh, that's good.
hopefully that will be done this year. That's the goal is to be like
So is this gonna be
really,
your first horror book? First
yeah.
horror
I mean, this is
novel?
the first book I've ever written. Period. So you know,
Wow.
it's a really weird realm. I've always enjoyed writing. When I was in college at the University of Georgia here, I really enjoyed writing a lot. So to me, it's something that kind of comes relatively natural, but it's definitely a learning experience every time I, you know, sit down to like read something that's going to be part of that book or like write. You know, it's
Mhm.
always new experiences, but I'm a lover of that kind of uncomfortable newness. You know, I love that feeling of being like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna give it my best effort.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Can't
that's
wait.
coming hopefully this year, and we'll see what happens with that. I'm gonna like talk to maybe some publishers and see if they might want to put it out. And if they don't, then cool, I'll do it myself, you know.
Yeah,
But
well,
I'm a
yeah,
big believer in DIY, you know.
yeah. I have to get an autographed copy of that one, huh?
For sure. I'll bring, hopefully by the time that we get over to Hawaii, it will be like physically produced and I can bring it
Yeah,
to you.
and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I would love to read your novel. Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So other than that, it's kind of a weird year. Like I'm taking a little bit of time off from touring. Like, for the past few years, a lot of people that are in the music industry have asked, like friends that are in bands or whatever, they're like, what are you doing to like grow things? And I'm like, honestly, social media is always a thing. You gotta grind that wheel. But what I do think, I saw this interview with Dave Grohl like 2 years ago, and I thought it was really interesting because he said, I honestly believe that now it's still the case that the best way to grow your band or your act or whatever is to go out on the road, play shows and kick ass like every night and put it like give it 100% every night and just tour a lot. And I do believe in that because we have been touring like 6 to 7 months a year for the past like 3 years basically.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
sell your merchandise. Yeah, that's the
yeah, and just getting out there and like talking to people and like meeting people after shows and that stuff matters to me. And I also do it out of a principle of like saying thank you. Like, I like to go hang out with the crowd and just hang out and see what people have to say and get to know everybody. But yeah, like that's also a lot of work and it's very, very exhausting and demanding. So, this year I'm like, all right, we're gonna take a little bit of like we're gonna only tour like 5 months instead of seven. So yeah, it's kind of nice. Like I've been home effectively for the past 2 months with little exceptions here and there, and it's been nice because I get to do things like write that book and
yeah.
spend time with my cats and my partner, and we're getting married this year, so that's
Oh yeah,
cool.
yeah. Congratulations. So
Thank
when is
you.
the wedding?
Well, so the funny thing is the wedding itself is going to be just like a very 10-minute. There's a really gorgeous cemetery here in Athens called Oconee Hill Cemetery. It's like one of the oldest ones in the southeast. So we're gonna go get married there. Ricky Wilson from the B-52s is buried there. I like to go there to say hi to him, because
Oh,
I'm a huge B-52s fan, and I just think he was phenomenal. So we're gonna go do that real quick, and then we're gonna go have just like a party. Like we're not doing the traditional like spend a ton of money that we don't have on this crazy thing. And
honeymoon. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Scarlett and I are very much so like not like elaborate wedding people. So we were like, we're gonna rent we're gonna have a cocktail hour at that aforementioned bar, and then we're gonna go do like kind of a big party at a bigger place, and that'll
Well,
be it.
there'll be more parties down the road.
Yeah,
More
exactly.
celebrations, and maybe there's so much time. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Wow,
So and then
you had a
for
lot of things going for this whole
yeah,
year.
it's
You're a
it's a
busy
busy
guy.
year, but it's a good one. And I'm glad to know that like I'm still able to find joy in the world despite all the chaos and all the madness and all the politics and all the nonsense. It's like, yeah, I'm seeing it a lot when we play shows, especially this year, where I've seen a lot of people that are scared of what's happening in our country and in the world, and just the bigger picture of things. And I've found myself telling a lot of people, it's like, trust me, I get it. I mean, I talk about this kind of stuff at our shows and in the banter of the show, and it's in the music. But like what I've been telling people a lot, it's just like you cannot let the forces of the establishment and the powers that be like rob your joy. Like don't let these
Right.
crappy people take your joy away from you.
Yeah,
You
you
still
just gotta,
gotta.
I mean,
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
will work out.
yes,
And then
yeah.
to
I mean,
transform in some ways, maybe in a good way. I mean, we just can't see it yet.
yeah, and I think that sometimes you got to go through friction in history to get to a place where better days are there, because that's how humanity works. We kind of go through the tumultuousness of time,
Mhm.
and then it spits us out on the other side, and we go, well, we're not going to do that again. Let's
I
stay
mean,
away from that.
I tell people you just got to do what makes you happy. You got to do
Yeah,
something for yourself.
yeah,
Work on
absolutely.
yourself. Work on yourself, and that's what I say.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. It's a good
but
time to build community, You
right.
know, and
Meet
that's
people.
one thing I love about the goth world is that it's a giant community. You know, it's a subculture. It's, you
Mhm.
know, you go like, and that's actually something I've been telling people at shows as well. Is like every time you go to a show or a goth night or whatever, go talk to somebody you don't know. Just be like, hey, I'm so and so. It's nice to meet you. If you
Yeah.
don't recognize somebody or if you're new, just introduce yourself
You
because
gotta meet people. That's what I do. I go around and I meet people that walk into my events that I
yeah,
host here.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's so many people to remember, but we just saying hi to somebody you never met.
yeah,
They'll go out and tell other people, guess where I went and guess who I met and guess what I experienced. It's just
right.
good energy.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Mm.
you're not just like a ticket sale or somebody that walks through the door. You know, you're somebody that is being welcomed into a sense of community where
Mhm,
that person
mhm.
knows like, okay,
Exactly.
this is a safe place for me to be
Yeah,
who I am in this
exactly.
world. You know, because this stuff isn't for everybody, but
Right.
so you have to make people feel comfortable.
Oh yeah, my events are always for everyone to come in. It's a safe place. We're not
Yeah,
here to judge. We
yeah,
welcome all kinds of people, no matter what, no
that's
matter what
awesome,
you are. So,
as it should be.
well, you know what? I'm so excited for your future, all the stuff that you have planned, and I can't wait to get your book and
Thank
see
you.
you in person if you do come to Hawaii, which I think you will. I
Oh,
really
for sure. Yeah.
and I think
After,
so much.
especially after having talked to you now, I have to. This is an
I
obligation.
know,
It's like
right? Yeah,
contractual.
for sure. Yeah, well, you're super talented,
Thank you.
Dusty Gannon. Vision Video. I'll put a link to your website, visionvideoband.com, and you got so much going on there. And I hope to catch one of your shows. If not, then it will be in Hawaii for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We'll definitely be there.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. We'll see you soon. Stay strange, everybody.